Strange. Wow. Oh man, oh man. All right, let me adjust the camera here. I said I wasn't gonna make it too dark. I'm gonna make a one-step increase. That didn't make any difference. All right. There we go. Go back on here. Sorry, making all these last-minute adjustments. When I check my camera, it looks different than with the Streamlabs app. But I'm gonna turn my lamp on over here. Hang on. All right. There we go. I got some big lights out there, but I don't want to turn them on. Hi everybody, MJ here. Thought we'd do a little chat by the mixing console. Good evening, Dave. How are you? Always a pleasure to see you. Fist pump. And just to have something visual to look at, I've hooked up my large diaphragm condenser mic and patched it into the console. As you can see, every time I talk, it goes up in the 8-meter groups and on a stereo mix bus just to make it sound interesting. Yeah, it's a little bit better. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it started out dark. Actually, the funny thing is, like most live streamers, we set up and we use, our phone's camera, the native camera app, right? To check out the panorama, the depth of field and everything. And then always the Streamlabs app. Uncle Bud, how are you? Didn't see you come in. Hi. Always the Streamlabs app is darker. And even though I know that, I try to compensate for it. Now, you can't see, but behind, I'm just using my phone today. I'm not using the webcam or anything. I got a green screen, and the green screen is suspended from the ceiling, on a network of piping, and I have clamp lights up there that if I turn them on, I'll just turn them on. They're very, very white, and here they are, LED, and boom, that makes everything like, whoa, see? But that's what you want for like a, I guess you'd say a real broadcast, right? Because, if I turn it around and showed you the green screen, it's, very well lit. And the way the clip lights are, the way the clip lights are, I can aim them down, I can completely illuminate the screen. If you want me to leave it like this, I'll leave it like this. You just can't see the cute meters so good, but it doesn't matter. It's just for looks. So if you prefer this, it's fine with me. So we are in fact broadcasting using the ivideo.com.tw Wi-Fi box, the one that I showed the other night on Win-Win's, at Woman's Place. Yeah, but I just try to give you guys what you want. That's cool. And then also over here on this side, we have our logo, Taiwan Live, and TaiwanLive.tv is our infrequently updated website, but we do have a late night show page. You can look at the menu, and there's a QR code. You can join our Line group, or you can download an address file and send us a postcard, which we love. We love postcards. Now, I don't have them here because we send them to Win-Win's place. Win-Win is the owner of the the karaoke KTV place that I've been going to since the beginning, basically, of my live streaming career. We made that place pretty famous. So, anyway, what's going on? What's on your mind? I think we got a total of one viewer, I think. And now, earlier on, when I first started without turning on the other lights, the auxiliary studio lights, I just had my PC illuminating. The PC's up right over here, and it actually has our, you can't really see it because it's washed out, but it has our Taiwan Live logo on it, and I suppose I could, if if I really, really wanted to, if I wanted to grab my keyboard, it's wireless, I suppose I could open Periscope. But then again, what would be the point, I guess? Because I couldn't moderate, so. All right, so what have you guys been doing? Me, I've been plugging along. I've been working on a couple of things, though, because, you know, all these years I've had access to a real studio, and nope, I'm restreaming through Restream. It's a Singapore server, so I should be on Periscope and also Africa, same as always. I'm not doing anything different, so I'm using the, the Restream IO, and it shows that I am streaming in RTMP mode. Yep, and we got a good frame rate. Yeah, that's okay. No big deal. YouTube's convenient, you know, and Periscope's convenient, so whatever's more convenient for you is okay with me. But as I was saying, you know, I work on my own tunes and things, but, you know, for recreation, I do other people's music for the fun of it. And, you know, all musicians are like that. It's funny because I talk to even some rock stars that I know, and they dig, like, playing other people's tunes. And sometimes, I think you'll understand what I mean. Sometimes you can find out just how good somebody really is when they're doing somebody else's tunes, and you know that, like, that tune is very hard, or it's, you know, requires a lot of proficiency in singing or playing, and you realize, well, the guy nailed it, or, you know. So it's interesting, and of course it's really interesting when the cover version, if somebody releases it, actually gets more airplay than the original. Like, a lot of people thought that David Lee Roth wrote Just a Gigolo, for example. This comes immediately to mind, so it's interesting. So I've been goofing around with a couple of tunes, and I've got this 32-track digital studio, and I'm working on my own songs. I have 5 of my tunes in progress, significantly along. I'm almost ready to start the vocal tracks, not quite, but I'm almost ready to start the vocal tracks. But for recreation, and also, you know, it helps keep your chops up, and sometimes I want to experiment. What would happen if I put this effect on, or this and the other thing? And sometimes, like, songs that I'm doing my own stuff might not be suitable to try these experiments. So I got a couple of cover tunes that I'm playing, that I'm actually recording. It's pretty funny. And I start out because we have access to these fantastic MIDI files where real musicians say, I'm not a keyboard player, I'm a studio guy. It's like, if you guys ever saw that movie called My Favorite Year with Peter O'Toole, it's one of my favorite movies. There's a classic line that he says in the movie when he finds out that the show he's about to do is live. Nobody told him till the last minute. He gets the jitters, and he yells at everybody. He says, I'm not an actor, I'm a movie star. And boy, I was like, I spit my beer, and I was like, what do I said, well, I'm not a musician, I'm a recording artist. There's a big difference. I like laying tracks, you know, and so I can lay tracks on a keyboard, but I can't play a keyboard. If you put me in front of a, you know, a live audience playing keyboard, no. I mean, years ago with the Britain band, I played the Hammond M3. It was very simple stuff, all my own compositions, but anyway, so I've got the MIDI keyboard, and fortunately everything is MIDI. Even this desk is MIDI. Everything in this room is MIDI. And I have MIDI files that I'm playing on the Korg keyboard, and the Korg has the M1 engine in it. It's really good, great sounds. And so I find like 1 or 2 really hot MIDI files, and I often have to modify them. Like, for example, I've got one of my favorite Boston songs, The Man I'll Never Be. Everything was fantastic on it except the piano part. The piano part was wrong. But I found a beautiful solo piano part where somebody had just played only the MIDI file of the piano part. So I edited it into the other file. And I had to adjust it a little bit to fudge it because the timing was off. I got it. It's perfect. But I got this beautiful piano part now in the other thing. And that's what I've been doing. And using the Brian May guitar up here. The funny thing about this guitar is because it was designed by Brian May in the 60s, yeah, it has that real Queen sound. But if you don't play Queen songs on it, you play other songs, like you play Boston songs on it, it sounds like a vintage guitar. It just sounds like a great vintage guitar. So I cut, using the Brian May guitar and the Brian May amp, I cut some Boston guitar sounds. I've been cutting a version of The Man I'll Never Be just for fun, for recreation. It's fun. And cutting those guitar parts was really fun. It was amazing. I probably should play some of it for you. Got just a little piece of it. There's a lot of guitar parts on it. This is one of those things that's kind of a, hey, Gallardo, how you doing? Nice to see you. It's one of those things where just, you know, if you got a half an hour, but you know, I can't get deep into anything. It's not enough time. But I got this little guitar part that I can put on this cover tune just for fun. And it keeps your chops up. Because what I used to do in Taiwan, because I hadn't actually like played any shows. I played a couple shows a long time ago. With a Thai band like in Taoyuan Stadium and stuff like that. But I was playing some coffee shops and restaurants just to keep my chops up, you know, and sing like every weekend. It was good. And it doesn't pay anything, but I didn't need the money. I was doing it, you know, just to keep my skills from atrophying, because that's what happens. If you don't, you know, the old saying is, you know, use it or lose it. And it's amazing what, you know, you get for muscle memory on guitar. You know, you can remember things. Your voice you got to keep in shape, and it's basically from what the therapists tell me, it's kind of like a tendon, and you got to stretch it. You know, you got to warm it up, but you got to use it, and you can recover from injuries just like you can recover from a pulled hamstring or tennis elbow, but you got to do it right. And anyway, so I'm just rambling on. Let me tell you about these speakers behind me. See, for those of you who know, excuse me, about studios, you'll recognize one thing about this setup right away. There's no monitors on this desk. That means I'm not sitting here mixing anything. And that's right. I don't use this desk for multi-track mixing. I use this desk for analog signal processing. Because the digital world, is a cold world. Analog is warm and sweet. This desk has legendary microphone preamps. You plug a large diaphragm condenser microphone into this mic preamp. Put your headphones on, and it is, whoa, yeah, baby. Every little lip smack and, you know, hairs in your nose, glistening vocal cords, everything. The details is astonishing. 4-band EQ, sweepable. I use this thing for its microphone preamps. The other thing that I use it for is to generate analog distortion that you can't get in digital systems. Over here I showed you my computer, right? Over here. But this is my drum machine, the DR880. It's a fantastic machine. It's an analog machine. It has analog outputs, and I'm going to the digital inputs on the 32-track digital recorder over there. But let me tell you, if I take the outputs and I run them through a channel here, and I smash it hard, like right where it's clipping, right at the hairy edge, and then feed it into the input on the digital recorder and record it at -12, so I preserve the headroom. that's the best of both worlds. Because in the old days, right, when I was producing in Boston on 2-inch tape, I mean, everything was +4. I used to joke that, well, you see how I've turned everything up just for fun. You see how every time I talk, it peaks into the red? Yeah, you can do that on analog. You can't do that on digital. Anything over 0 and it's distorted. You clip and you're dead. Well, I used to, before I would cut the tracks, as the band was warming up and playing and I got sounds, I would check the drum tracks by turning the monitors off and listen to the needles click. Yeah, we're ready to go because we're pinning everything. And that sound that you get, you know, when the mic preamp distorts in analog. And believe me, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to have a digital drum kit here in this room. I'm going to hook it up to that drum machine because I need to play some parts into the drum machine it's the easiest way to program them, you know, is to actually play them on pads. You better believe that I'm going to use this desk here to process those sounds and get that analog distortion. But there's a monster power amp down below here that was designed by a Taiwanese engineer. He knew what he was doing. That thing is clean. But over here on this side, this is my workbench. I got I got a chair over here, and you can see part of the green screen here, see? But these are vintage. Oh, sorry, there's my whiskey and one of my glasses. These are vintage acoustic research monitors. The one with the cone in the center. There's nothing down here at the bottom. This is all cabinet. And one of their little dome tweeters up there, it says AR on it. And you probably remember AR was a company that had a cooperation between Massachusetts and England. These things, if you put, say for example, a Tom Petty record. Tom Petty's records are known for having a lot of headroom. They're known for being superbly engineered. They're just fantastically crafted masterpieces of audio engineering. And if you put one of those records on, or some of those old vintage records like Who's Next, anything by Pink Floyd on these monitors, it is, the detail is out of this world. And so I have a digital copy of Def Leppard, you know, it was all done in analog and hardware. Of course, I play it, you know, it's 16-bit, 44.1 kilohertz, but I run it through the Ghost console, through that monster power amp, and out these AR, these acoustic research monitors. And the detail that you can hear is just mind-blowing. But I'll tell you what else is mind-blowing is the clarity and high-end and the cleanliness of those old analog recordings that we used to do in the old days. 2-inch tape, 30 inches per second, no noise reduction. Yeah, there was tape hiss. Yeah, there was shot noise. But when you slam it at +4, all that stuff was 60, 70 dB down. Here we got like 90 to 100, maybe 108 dB headroom in a digital system. The amazing thing is, I'm recording stuff at -12 that I used to record at +6 or maybe +8. But I'm recording it at -12 and there's no hiss. What's really amazing is, I mean, I get hiss if I use a microphone to record a guitar amp, or if I'm recording a guitar amp directly. But anything like the drum machine, even its analog outputs are super clean. I bring the faders up and there's no noise. And sometimes that can be scary for an analog person, because we used to know, like, when the thing was running, because we would hear shh, and it wouldn't surprise us if we heard a drum hit. This thing, you press play and you hear nothing and you go, is it on? All of a sudden it comes on. It's like, holy cow, yeah, I guess it is on. There's no shot noise, there's no tape noise, there's no nothing. The noise floor is 80, 100 dB down from where you thought it was. This is crazy. So anyway, Am I boring you with this tech talk? Sorry about that. Anyway, so you've all seen this guitar, but you probably haven't seen that one over there. Let me do this. Let me move this puppy just a little bit out of the way here. Let me just do this. Okay. That's cool. Let me show you this guitar. Years ago in 1978, I was on the road with, okay, good, thanks. Uncle Bud, it's always a pleasure to have you here. Excuse me, I gotta move my cable here. Always a pleasure to have you here. I was 22 years old. I was on the road with the Showmen, a band from Virginia Beach. They were famous for a couple of hits called, one was 39, 21, 40 Shape, another was called It Will Stand. You can find them on YouTube. They used to be, the band was formed by Norman Johnson, who later formed chairman of the board. Anyway, I played with him at a time when Norman Johnson had left. It's funny though, he came back to visit one time. I got to meet him. He's pretty cool. He's passed away. I think all these guys are gone. I think they've all passed off the scenes. But at that time, I had a 1954 Les Paul Special. You know, it's a flat-faced lower model. It's like a television model. Les Paul was still a 54, and it played so well, and it had two pickups and just this monster sound. And I remember I set it down and the headstock broke. These older vintage guitars were really weak right in this area. A lot of times there's what we call a heel. It'll come out a little bit and then go up. These older guitars don't have this heel. And I set it down, and the proper way to set one of those guitars down was just face down like this on the floor. It wouldn't hurt anything. And it broke the headstock off. And I was like, now what am I going to do? So I went down, and I knew it was going to take, time to fix it. It took longer for me to find a reputable luthier who could fix it than it did to do the actual repair. But I went down to the local store. I needed something right away. I went down to the local store, and I saw this Epiphone. Okay, it says Epiphone on it, right? And everybody knows that Epiphone is Gibson, made in the same Kalamazoo, Michigan factory. And, how much is it? It was $200. And that's back in the day when you could sign your name and take something. I gave them $75 as a deposit. They let me take the guitar. I signed my name and everything. And I went out on the road with this guitar. And I came back like about 6 weeks later, and I was going to go back to the store, and the store was gone. They were out of business. And to be perfectly honest with you, I don't even remember the store's name. I couldn't find it if I had to. That was it. They were gone. I got the guitar. What do? I still got it. First thing I did was I put a Leo Kwan badass bridge on it. This guy here, this is a replacement bridge, and because the stop tail piece that was on it, the intonation was terrible. But when this thing is in tune, and it's in tune everywhere. This bridge was put on in Knoxville, Tennessee. I forget how much it cost. I think it was 99 bucks. I've not touched the intonation since 1978. It's perfect. Haven't touched the neck. It's never been refretted. It was refretted by somebody else. It's got these fat frets on it. This is not the original pickup. And that's not the original electronics. And I was at a session in a studio and at a music store, and they had a piece of this, because what happened was the jack used to be located on the scratch plate. And what would always happen is you'd plug your guitar in, your cable in, and you'd be playing, and you'd be stepping on the guitar cable and not know it, and you'd stand up and it'd go, psh, and it snapped it, and I broke like 3 of these scratch plates. I was tired of it. So, I didn't have many tools. I was playing on the road at the time. I was doing a recording session. I was actually living in our bus on Com Ave in Boston. And actually it was in Brookline, right on the border. And he had a jack plate for a Gibson Les Paul, which is a guitar that's a little bit thicker than this one. And you can see it doesn't really match, but I took a file and I hollowed it out. See, it doesn't really match. But I put the Gibson jack plate on there and moved the jack from here to here. Then, yeah, I studied electronics when I was a kid. I put a rotary switch in here. It's got a lot of positions, but I'm only using 3 of them. One of the positions is the original capacitor. I think it's, I don't even remember what it is. One of the original disc capacitors for the tone control, okay? And then the other one is a Bill Lawrence filter. The Bill Lawrence filter does something really interesting. When you have the tone control all the way back, which would ordinarily roll off the high frequencies, but you lower the volume, all of a sudden it gets crystal clear. It gets this crystalline, amazing crystalline sound. And I've used that a lot. The other position I've almost never used, but what it is a very, very small roll-off filter for when you're playing in a situation where the electrical power is not clean and you've got a really high-end buzz on your guitar sound. And so if I put the filter if I put the rotary switch to that position and roll it back, it only cuts off that nasty noise and leaves the guitar sound behind. So it's really great. A couple of gigs I used it and I was able to play, like doing an outdoor show on like generator power or something like that. So I've had this guitar continuously since 1978. This is a 1964 Epiphone Olympic melody maker, and the 64 had a really unique shape, this really like sharp, you know, it's not rounded, these sharp horns on this, not rounded at all. It's almost the same shape in some respects as the Les Paul, you know, around here. This is original finish, it's all cracked. And you see there used to be some kind of like a trapeze tailpiece that came up from here that went up to the bridge. It's no longer here. It may have been a vibrato, but I don't know. I don't know what it was. When I got the guitar, it wasn't there. It's all banged up. It's one piece of mahogany. The bridge is set. You know, the neck is mahogany, and it's a rosewood fingerboard. And look at the action. This thing plays like a dream. It is incredible. Very, very low, very, very fast, always in tune. I did a session with Jack Morgan. Now Jack and I go way back. Great guitar player, great singer and writer. And you know, Jack asked me to join his recording band and his live show band, and you know, we cut some tracks out at Longview. And he always loved how his guitar sound, and even his management company, the Barbera brothers. The guys who managed Till Tuesday, they loved the sound of this guitar, but they always said it looks like a piece of junk, you know, because it's all beat up. But, you know, guitars are like people. We don't really care what they look like. We just care about what kind of person they are, you know, and it's what's inside that matters, not the outside. And with a guitar, it's like, you know, how's it sound, whether how's it look. So they would make fun of me. Why don't you get you a Les Paul and all this? And I said, yeah, okay, I could do that. But, you know, I always come back to this one because I like how it sounds. And so one day we were at Fleetwood and we were cutting a single, and I'm in the control room. Jack's doing a solo, and Jack is such a great player, a virtuoso player, and he's like ripping off this solo, broke a string. Oh, it's the worst thing can happen. I mean, talk about breaking concentration. Okay, well, even if you've got a guitar tech, you've got to wait. Whether you do it yourself or not is not important. He's sitting there, and he sees Maxine is her name. He sees Maxine sitting over there. And he goes, hey, let me use your guitars. Okay, of course. Okay, said, all right. I just want to finish a solo. And he doesn't need a, he doesn't need a tail piece. He just needs a stock, stop piece. So he picks up the guitar and he's like, now I understand why you like this guitar. And he put this thing on 10 and he ripped a monster guitar solo out of it. And he never made fun of this thing again. But if you go to mjk.asia and you listen to my recordings that I did in the 90s, every single one of them is this guitar. And it's through an orange amp with a high watt cabinet. These days I'm using Vox amps exclusively, but believe it or not, that little amp, or that little drum machine over there has some of the best guitar amp simulators I've ever seen or heard. And they're fully configurable. You can configure, bass, middle, treble presence. You can configure gain on it and all kinds of effects. So I'm using the Vox amps recorded direct with their direct outs and the Roland machine. And what I'm doing is, I belong to the Tom Schultz School of Recording Engineering. You don't cut one guitar track. You cut 4. You cut 2 on the left and you cut 2 on the right. It forces you to play very precisely exactly what you played before, but you use several different sounds and you layer them, and the results speak for themselves. And the people who have been privileged to hear, some of the tracks that I've been cutting recently using this guitar, the Brian May guitar, and all the various combinations, can tell you that it definitely works. I was having a discussion on the Tascam forums with some of the other musicians and engineers, and we're talking about how everything today is virtual instruments. And it's like, it's becoming, well, it's coming to the point where pretty soon we're going to have virtual talent. Yeah, just download the talent plug-in and plug it in. Because, yeah, that's what, this has been around for a long time, but I'm not used to a virtual instrument. I'm used to a real instrument. And I'm going to tell you the truth, if I'm, playing a solo and I can't play it, it doesn't get played. I'm not going to MIDI it, at quarter speed, run it through a DAW, and then process it back. It's like, can you play or can you not? And that's really what it comes down to. Listen how, this thing's been sitting on the wall. Listen. Oh, it's great. Perfect. Really good. And I really love this guitar. Now, I'll tell you something. I was without this guitar for the first couple of years that I was in Taiwan. And I had another guitar. I sold it to Eric, but I did have the other guitar with me, so it wasn't without a guitar, just without this one. I saw the Brian May. It interested me for a long time. I finally got it. I think I got it in 2008. I think I got 2008. And there was something about it. I don't know what it was, but I said, wow, there's something, I love it. As soon as I started playing it, I loved it. Then I went to visit the States, and I got this guitar, and I brought it back with me on the plane. And what happened was, let me show you this. Let me take the strap off, because it's kind of annoying. All right, come on, get off here. I set these guitars on guitar stands, and they were sitting side by side, and I realized they're virtually the same scale if you look at them. You look at the, okay, right? See, you put them side by side. I know I can go like this, and I can hold them any way that I want. But if I do like this, you look at them. They're within 1/4 of an inch of the same scale. And so all these years that I've been playing Maxine, when I picked up the Brian May, I didn't realize that it was so close. But the Brian May, this one in particular, it's a floating bridge. This one doesn't have a floating bridge. Brian May has some idiosyncrasies about it. The string tension is lower than on this one. And I can't play a guitar with low string tension because I don't know if I have strong fingers or weak fingers or what the deal is, but my vibrato becomes completely out of control if it's too easy to play. Brian May is incredible because when he recorded those iconic guitar solos like on Bohemian Rhapsody, he used 008 gauge strings, and any guitar player will tell you that's like really super light. There's nothing pushing against you, and his vibrato is really, you know, very nice and controlled, like a violinist, right? I can't do that on 8s. These are 10s. The Brian May ships with 9s. I played with 9s for a number of years. Can't do it. Switched everything over to 10s. It enables you to, you know, you can get the slower, but for me it's out of control. So, hey Matthew, how you doing? So that's the story of Maxine. So 1978 to the present, $75. Do I hear 80? I wouldn't sell that thing for 800. Yeah. I can't think of any reason I would sell it at all. Yeah. So, you know, I realize it's not a 1952 Les Paul. I actually had a chance to buy one of those. A guy tried to sell me one. Well, he wanted to sell me it. I just didn't want it. A 1952 Gibson Les Paul, gold top, original condition for $500. And that's right before I got the 54 Les Paul when I was going on the road. And that guitar today is worth at least $12,000. But knowing me, I don't know, I probably would have scratched it or done something. I modify myself, like that guitar. Maxine, I have seen on the internet, mint condition, 1964, Olympics going for $2,000. That one's not worth $2,000. I modified it. There isn't anything on it that's original at all, except the decal that says Epiphone. Even the tuners aren't original. Nothing's original on it. But that's partially why I like it, because it doesn't have that P90 single coil. It's got the, oh, that's a vintage PAF pickup on it. That's a really old pickup that predates, obviously, 1978. Those of you who may be wondering, I do have some Yamaha A12s. I've got a Yamaha, I guess they call it a, oh yeah, it's the EMX 312 SC. It's a 300 watt Class D PA system, basically. Yeah, I have a small PA system in here that I use because sometimes I run stuff through it just to check. Like I've got the AR monitors and I've got the Tascam recording monitors. It's always good that whenever you're doing mixing or doing tracks that you audition things through different systems to find out where you're really at, because everything's a filter. Your eyes, your ears, your sense of touch, your sense of smell and taste are all filters. Everybody's is different. Sometimes you'll go to dinner and you're astonished why the taste, the flavor of the food that you think is so fantastic, your friend can't stand. What's wrong with you? His filters are telling him. You know, he sees green a little differently. You know, your other friend sees red differently. You know, it's just how it is. And we all hear differently. But what I do is I do these mixes and I copy them over to my phone and I go to the stereo shop. And they all have the 3.5 millimeter TRS plug in my phone, and I play my mixes, and that's what I do. So that's how I try to keep a handle on, you know, where I'm actually at with reality. And that's how we've been doing it, you know, since day one. even in the old days, we'd have special, rooms that were only designed for listening, and for mastering. But the API console that I did the vast majority of my work on the far right-hand side was a producer's desk, and at the producer's desk was a speaker about this big, just one mono speaker. And over on the monitor section of the console was a rotary switch that would select that speaker as the monitor output rather than your main monitors or your secondary near-field monitors. And I spent quite a number of hours altogether listening to mixes that I had done on UREI time-aligned monitors or Eastern Acoustic Work monitors or like the Yamaha NS10s, highly detailed monitors. But all mixed on those detailed monitors, I would listen to the playback on that tiny little car speaker. That's what it's supposed to be, like the car dashboard. And it's amazing what you learn on those little speakers. In fact, a company made a career out of producing a monitor called the Auratone. It was a simple little single speaker little box. It was supposed to be, I don't want to sound like I'm being derogatory or detracting from them, because what they produced was a very fine reference monitor, but it was supposed to be a monitor that everybody agreed on was a crap monitor, like the worst case scenario for like a kid with a boom box or something. And every studio in the world had one. And they have them here in Taiwan. So the Auratone was one of those that just where people would use those as the worst case reference. And we used to say, if it sounds great on the Auratones, it's going to sound incredible everywhere else. And that was really true. So that's why I have the ARs. That's why I have the Yamahas and the Tascam reference monitors, and that's why I play stuff on everything that I can think of. My Bluetooth headset and my Bluetooth speakers, I play it in the car and everything else. So anyway. So now we're going to go to the question and answer portion of the show. And so what I'd like you to do is please raise your hand if you have a question that you'd like to ask, and it could be about any topic that you think I might know, which isn't that many. How long have we been on the air? I don't even know. What I have to do is I have to get Streamlabs to incorporate a clock. Anyway, all I know is that we're streaming along very, very well. Family is good. Family's really good. Thanks, bud. Phoenix is in music school. She is taking the Yamaha music course, from Japan. And it's really interesting because they use the note names like do, re, mi, right? And I'm not used to that. I'm used to, C, D, E. And the music teacher is going like, she'll talking about these notes instead of using the letters, they're using the names, and it's really hard for me to follow. I'm looking at the sheet music and I'm like, wow, okay, it's blowing my mind. But they only do that for a short period of time because they're children, and they said that what they would be doing in the future, in the near future, is switching to the notes where they're going to tell you, the note names instead of the tactical names. So, of course, one of Phoenix's favorite songs is, Sound of Music, Do, Adir, right? Because she's using Do, Re, Mi, so it's really, really interesting. But I think that the Yamaha course is quite good. I know another gentleman who's also a recording engineer here in Taiwan from Great Britain, and his son was in the Yamaha course, and he spoke very highly of it. And so she is already exploring other keys, and they're doing, 3-note triads on the left hand and the melody in the right hand, and she is able to do pretty well. Of course, like a lot of kids, she has a really good memory. And Phoenix has my ears. So she'll hear a piece of music and she can memorize it. And the problem is sometimes I catch her. She's memorizing stuff, she's not reading it. So I got to make her read it. And the other thing I'm trying to get her to do is look at the sheet music and not at her fingers. Because it's just like typing on a computer. You see guys, going like this. And it takes discipline and effort. I specifically remember taking typing in high school, and then years later going to the computer, and I was like, okay, I think I remember this, and I had to force myself to look at the monitor and not look at my hands. And once I did that, it was painful, but once I did that, it opened up everything. And so that's what you have to do. Look at the sheet music and not at your fingers. You just learn the notes like a typing keyboard. And she's doing very well in that. And she's reading too. Same thing with reading. She's reading mostly in English. They're doing some Chinese too. She memorizes a lot of things because her memory is really good. Super good. But it's gratifying to hear her sing and sing in key and then take a break. Come back 5 minutes later, sing the same song, and she's in the same key. Got my ears. So I want to train her. I want to train her in singing. I think I'm going to start training her quite soon. The other thing is I want to record with her too. I've got all this capability. I want to get her on some tracks, get her used to that. That's a good thing. I grew up playing with my mom. By the time I was 8 years old, I did a couple gigs with her, in some clubs, and I was gigging, by the time I was 14. I was in an all-original band when I was 14, so I think it's good. That's what I'm going to do, get her going. So, Uncle Bud, how's your family? And we understand you have a new little boy in the family. It's a fantastic picture that you shared with us in the late night group. Now, let me mention that too. If you use the Line app, that's L-I-N-E, the Line app from Japan, go to taiwanlive.tv and use the menu, pull down the late night show, and you'll find a QR code. Scan it. Join the group. All your favorite live streamers are there. You'll appreciate it. You'll have access to all of them. And good bunch of folks. It's a safe place. But I think with that, I'm going to wrap it up. I'll try to do a little bit of work here. It's a little bit, let's see, it's almost midnight here in Taiwan, about 10 minutes before midnight in Taiwan. So I want to thank everyone for joining. I want to thank my sponsor, ivideo.com.tw. They're gracious enough, they're going to give me the battery bank version of their Wi-Fi box. It should be here next week. I'll show you guys as soon as it gets there. So, excellent. Joel's his name. Well, that's nice. Yeah. I bet he is. He looked like a sweet little boy from the picture. I appreciate you sharing that with us, Uncle Bud. So you guys take care. Big fist bump to you guys, and we'll see you next time. And not sure where we're gonna stream from next week. We'll just have to find a place. You guys take care. Let me go off of full screen mode. Thanks for joining, and be sure to leave your comments on YouTube. We appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks, Matthew. I think Dave may have signed off. It's late in Japan. It's almost 1 o'clock in the morning, so I want to thank Dave and Osaka for joining too. You guys take care. Thank you so much. We're going to press the button now. Have a good evening, and we'll say 再见 from Taiwan.